You know what's funny? For the longest time, I thought words like good morning were just nice, harmless, a polite way to start the day. I didn't realize how many of those messages I sent were actually empty, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't think. I didn't feel into them. I just repeated what I thought I was supposed to say. It's strange, right? We live in a world overflowing with words, and yet we feel so unseen, so unheard. I used to wonder why some of my messages were left unread, or worse, unread. It hurt in a quiet way, like you open your chest to someone and they don't even glance inside. But here's what I never asked myself back then. What exactly was I offering? Good morning? How did you sleep? Hope your day goes well. Sweet, safe, and completely forgettable. You ever flip a coin and hope for magic? That's what those messages were, a toss of the emotional dice. Sometimes he'd respond, sometimes not. Sometimes I felt like the first thought on his mind. Other times I faded into background noise. I didn't realize it, but I was speaking in gray, in soft tones that left no imprint, just static. Carl Jung once said that words are keys to the unconscious, and that hit me later hard, because if that's true, and I believe it is, then every message I sent was a missed chance to unlock something deeper. I wasn't using the key. I was just tapping on the door, hoping it would open on its own. It's not about being dramatic or poetic. It's about being felt, because that's the part we forget. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. Imagine this. You're him, half awake, phone lighting up. You see my name, you read, "Good morning." And that's it. What happens next? Nothing. You blink. Scroll. Maybe respond out of politeness, maybe not at all. I became another voice in the crowd, not the voice that stopped him mid-scroll. And it crushed me, quietly, slowly. Not because he ignored me, but because I hadn't given him anything real to hold on to. There's a deeper truth beneath this that took me a while to face. I was afraid to speak in colors, afraid to say something that might seem too much, too strange, too exposed. I wanted connection, but I was playing it safe, emotionally distant behind a smiling emoji. And what does that create? Distance. So here's the truth I learned. Safety doesn't create connection. Emotion does. A message that lands, that lingers, that makes someone pause. It's not born from politeness. It's born from truth, from curiosity, from vulnerability. Have you ever received a message that made your heart beat faster? Not because it was romantic, but because it felt real. Hey, I just remembered something silly you said last week, and it made me laugh in the middle of a boring meeting. Or, I had the weirdest dream about you. You were riding a flamingo in the desert, don't ask. I'm still confused. Those messages, they live. They wake something up in you. And that's the difference. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be clever. But you do need to feel what you're saying. Because when you do, the words stop being filler and start being a presence. I think of it this way now. A message is a door. You can either tape a polite sign on it, "Do not disturb," or you can leave it slightly ajar, warm light spilling through the crack, and a quiet invitation to enter. So when I send "Good morning" now, it's never just that. It's "Good morning. I saw a bird fight a squirrel outside and thought of you for some reason." Chaos energy. Or, "Good morning. I woke up with this strange feeling that something good is coming. No idea why, but I hope you feel it too." That's the key. Not manipulation, not performance, just presence. Just being a real person with a real pulse, speaking to another human heart. And if he doesn't respond, that's okay. Because now I know I offered something alive, something he might come back to later. Or not. But either way, I'm not the one ghosting myself anymore. So yeah, Good morning still means something to me, but only if it means something. There was a moment, and I remember it clearly, when I reread one of my old messages and felt this strange shame. Not because it was rude or messy. It was kind, sweet even. Something like, "Good morning, handsome. Hope you slept well. I miss you." But reading it again with honest eyes, I realized something. That wasn't kindness. That was need. It hit me like a wave. I wasn't just saying good morning. I was reaching out with invisible hands, hoping to be held, to be noticed, reassured, loved. And the worst part? I didn't even know I was doing it. Jung called this projection. When we unconsciously place our unmet needs onto others. We think we're being thoughtful when in reality we're handing someone a weight we can't carry ourselves. That message. It wasn't about him. It was about me, feeling unseen, wanting to be chosen, craving a response that would prove I mattered. But here's the paradox. The more we project, the less likely we are to get what we actually need. Think about it. Imagine someone texting you every morning saying how much they miss you, hoping to see you soon, calling you beautiful, needed, essential, all within the first few days of knowing you. At first, maybe it feels flattering. Then it starts to feel heavy, not earned, like you're being cast in a role you didn't audition for. That's what my messages were doing. I was offering closeness, but it came wrapped in pressure, wrapped in emotional debt. It's like giving someone a gift and watching them too closely to see if they smile enough. And he could feel it. Even if I said all the right words, because energy is louder than syntax. There's this truth I learned the hard way. The more you center your message around what you want from them, the less likely you are to actually connect. It's not even about manipulation. It's about emotional clarity. Sometimes I would write things like, "I hope today goes well for you. I've been thinking about you so much. Can't wait to see you again." But underneath that, if I'm brutally honest, what I was really saying was, "Please think of me too. Please tell me I matter. Please don't forget I exist." And when that kind of need shows up uninvited, it pushes people away. Not because they're cruel, but because no one wants to feel responsible for another person's worth. That's why Jung's idea of projection is so powerful. We think we're being warm, romantic, generous, but really, we're bleeding out longing and hoping someone else will clean it up. The moment I understood this, things shifted. I stopped writing from a place of needing validation. I started writing from a place of overflow. From having something I genuinely wanted to share, rather than something I hoped to receive. Because here's the truth. The most magnetic people are not the ones who ask, "Will you love me?" They're the ones who say, "Here's what I love, here's what made me smile today, and I wanted to give you a piece of it." No pressure, no agenda, just presence, just play. So instead of "I miss you," I started writing things like, "Something reminded me of you today, and I smiled without meaning to." It sounds small, but it carries no expectation, no weight, just an invitation, and it changes everything. When you release someone from the job of making you feel enough, they can finally want to come closer, not out of guilt or duty, but desire. You stop being a task and start becoming a joy. I realized my real power wasn't in begging to be seen. It was in seeing clearly, myself and others, seeing when I was speaking from fear, seeing when I was clinging instead of connecting, seeing that the need I was placing on him was actually something I needed to offer myself. Love, security, worth, it starts inside. And when it does, your messages change, your presence changes. You stop chasing attention and start attracting resonance. That's the shift. So if you're sending messages hoping for a reply, hoping for proof you matter, pause. Ask yourself, am I giving something real, or am I trying to get something I'm afraid to give myself? That question saved me again and again, because now I know a message can either be an anchor of anxiety or a gift of lightness. It depends on who you're being when you write it, and that makes all the difference. There's a kind of message that doesn't even need to be clever, and yet it gets remembered. Not because it was long, not because it was romantic, but because it touched something unspoken, something that made him smile without knowing why. I used to think that the right message was about finding the right words. Now I know it's about finding the right emotion. Because when a message makes you feel curious, warm, amused, surprised, it leaves a mark. It lingers. It lives. Think of it like this. Our brains are wired for stories, for questions, for surprise. We crave emotional shifts, not just information. That's why a message like, "Good morning, you won't believe what reminded me of you today," works better than, "Hope you slept well." It opens a door. It whispers, "There's more," and more is what we're all drawn to. I remember sending a message once. "I just had the weirdest dream about you," still trying to figure out if it was a warning or a blessing. He replied in 5 seconds flat, not because the message was poetic, but because it lit a match in his mind. What kind of dream? What does she mean? That tiny fire, curiosity, is the oldest emotional trigger there is. We're not built to ignore open loops. When something's left unsaid, our minds race to fill in the blanks. Jung called this the pull of archetypes. Symbols, suggestions, patterns that speak straight to the unconscious. We don't remember everything we read, but we do remember what made us wonder. And that's the art I started to learn. Not seduction, not manipulation, but crafting moments of emotional movement. Like this. "Good morning. You ever laugh out loud alone? Happened to me today. And yep, it had to do with you." He didn't even ask for details at first. He just responded, "Now I'm dying to know." Exactly. That's what I mean. A moment of emotion. A crack in the routine. Something unexpected. It's not about being theatrical or over the top. It's about letting a little spark into your words. Something that wakes him up, not just from sleep, but from numbness. Because that's what most of us are walking around with. Numbness. Overstimulated and underconnected, scrolling past people, responding out of obligation, forgetting we're actually human beings, not inboxes. So when a message cuts through that haze, makes you laugh, wonder, feel something real, it matters. It matters more than the perfect selfie, more than the polite emoji, more than 100 "hope your day's going well" texts. Here's the truth. If your message doesn't shift something inside him, even a little, it gets lost. But if it makes him pause, smile. Picture you laughing somewhere he's not. You're already living in his head. And isn't that what we really want? Not to control someone, but to matter, to echo a little when we're not in the room. I think we underestimate how little it takes to do that when we're speaking from a place of real feeling. So now, before I send anything, I ask myself, does this message say something? Or does it do something? Does it awaken curiosity? Does it plant a question? Does it wrap a thought in warmth or mystery? Because here's what I know now. Most people aren't ignoring you. They're just emotionally asleep. And unless your words touch something deeper, they don't even wake up long enough to notice. But when you say something like, "I had the oddest moment today, thought of you," still not sure if that's a good or dangerous thing, you just poke the unconscious, and that's where things start to stir. That's where connection begins, not in logic but in feeling. So if you want to be remembered, don't send data, send emotion, send movement, send something alive. Because in the end, what we remember is what made us feel. You know what I realized one day? We don't fall for people because they tell us everything. We fall for the ones who leave something unsaid, the ones who let silence stretch just enough to make us lean in, the ones who speak like stories that haven't reached their final page. There's this strange power in mystery, not the kind that plays games or hides behind walls, but the kind that knows the value of space, the kind that doesn't rush to fill every silence with explanation. Jung once said that what is half hidden often touches the subconscious more deeply than what is fully revealed. And that struck something in me, because I used to think that being understood meant being fully transparent, lay it all out, give all the context, share every feeling right away. Then they'll get it, right? But no, sometimes too much clarity makes us invisible. Too much certainty kills the spark, because our minds crave closure, and when they don't get it, they hold on. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, that unfinished tasks or open loops stay in our memory far longer than completed ones. And guess what? Conversations are no different. Emotional intrigue lingers, so I stopped trying to explain everything in my messages, stopped handing over the full story in the first line. Instead, I started inviting someone into the story, slowly, subtly. Like this one I remember sending, "Good morning. Something happened last night that made me think of you. Not sure I should tell you, though." Simple, teasing, unfinished. He couldn't help himself. What? What happened? And there it is, a tiny, almost invisible shift. He's leaning in. Now he wants to know, and the conversation isn't me chasing anymore. It's shared momentum. That's what mystery creates. Pull. It draws someone toward you, not because you forced it, but because you made space for curiosity to grow. And it's not manipulation, it's rhythm. It's understanding the dance of communication, when to offer, when to hold back, when to suggest just enough to wake his imagination. Because imagination, that's the secret door to the unconscious. When he begins to wonder, to picture, to fill in the gaps, that's when you become more than a message. You become a presence in his inner world. I've learned that when you say, "I'll tell you later," or "maybe I'll share it when I see you," you're not avoiding, you're planting. You're giving his mind something to revisit. A thought that keeps circling back, a sentence without a period. That's where the real power lives. Because let me ask you, which message would you remember? 1. "Good morning. I had a dream about you last night. It was nice." 2. "Good morning. I had a dream about you last night." Still trying to decide if it was romantic, weird, or dangerous. One gives closure, the other opens a door. And doors, half open, lit from within, they're magnetic. We want to know what's behind them. That's how we're wired. So now I write less to inform and more to invite. To let his mind wander just enough, to leave the ending open, like this. "Yesterday, something so random happened, and I immediately thought of you. Don't ask why. It's too weird to explain over text." He doesn't need to know what happened, not right away. What matters is what happens inside him when he reads it. That's the essence of attraction. Not knowing everything, but wanting to know more. And here's the most beautiful part. When someone's imagination is engaged, they begin to write you into their thoughts. They fill in the blank with their own meaning, their own longing, their own emotion. And suddenly, you're no longer a person on the other end of the phone. You're a symbol, a mystery, a spark in the dark that doesn't quite go out. That's the magic of the incomplete story. It's not a lack of honesty. It's the presence of depth, of restraint, of understanding that sometimes the best part of a story is the part we haven't heard yet. It's strange how memory works, isn't it? One random moment, a song on the radio, the smell of coffee, a line from a movie, and suddenly you're back. Back in a feeling you didn't know you missed. Back with someone who, for a moment, felt like home. That's the thing about nostalgia. It's not about facts. It's about feelings that survive time, And it's one of the most underestimated tools we have in creating connection. I didn't realize this until one day, without meaning to, I sent a message like, "Do you remember that time we got caught in the rain and ended up at that tiny bookstore downtown?" I don't know why, but I thought about it today. It made me smile. He responded almost immediately. "God, yes, I haven't thought about that in forever. That day was kind of perfect." And just like that, we were there again. Not physically, emotionally. That's the power of a well-placed memory. It doesn't just remind someone of you. It makes them feel you again. And the mind doesn't distinguish much between real and remembered emotion. If it's vivid, if it's warm, if it pulls at something deep, it sticks. Jung talked about this too, how symbols, stories, and emotional imprints from the past form layers of our psyche. When we awaken those symbols, we awaken the feelings tied to them. And when someone becomes a bridge to those emotions, they become unforgettable. You don't need a long history together to do this. You just need an emotional moment, or even the illusion of one. If there's no shared memory, you can create one through imagery. I once wrote, "Woke up imagining us walking by the ocean at dusk, shoes in hand." That quiet kind of laughter you only get when nothing feels rushed. Weird, I know, but it felt so real. And the reply, "Why does that sound better than everything else in my life right now?" Because what I gave him wasn't a fantasy. It was a feeling, a safe place, a picture he could walk into and find me already there. We all crave that, someone who gets our emotional language, someone who doesn't just talk about the weather, but about the weather inside us, someone who helps us return to moments where we felt light, seen, free. Sometimes I think people don't respond to our messages, not because they don't care, but because our words don't touch anything meaningful. They skim the surface. They don't stir the memory. They don't open the chest where real feelings live. But when you say, "Today I passed a street musician and thought about that night we danced in the kitchen to that old Sinatra song. I still remember the way you spun me." It's not just about the music, it's about who he was in that moment. The version of him that laughed, that felt alive, that felt connected. And if you can help him remember that, you're not just a person from his past. You become the path back to himself. That's what nostalgia really is. It's not about reliving the past. It's about relighting something we didn't realize had gone dim. And maybe that's the most beautiful gift you can give someone in a world full of noise. A soft place inside a memory, a reason to pause, a moment that whispers, "You were happy here, and I was there too." Sometimes I'll send something as simple as, "Remember that ridiculous ice cream you made me try? I hated it, but now I miss it, and you." And it's like I can feel the warmth return through the phone. You don't need to say much. You just need to feel deeply. And let that feeling echo through your words. Because when you stir a memory, you stir the heart. And the heart always listens. You know what most people are really starving for? Not love, not attention, not even reassurance. They're starving to be seen. Not just the polished version, not their job title, not the photos they post when they look their best, but the in-between version. The awkward laugh, the little obsessions, the way they light up when talking about something nobody else seems to care about. That's the part we hide, and also the part we ache for someone to notice. Jung once said that the greatest longing in the human soul is to be understood, not in the abstract, but in the deeply personal, and I believe that because I've seen what happens when you send a message that reflects someone's essence back to them. It changes everything. I remember this guy I was talking to. Funny, sarcastic, always pretending to be a little emotionally untouchable. Everyone liked him, but no one really noticed him. One day, after a call that had us both laughing too hard, Over something stupid, I sent him this message. Good morning. I realized something last night. You have this insane gift for making heavy moments feel light. It's rare, and I just wanted you to know I see that. He didn't respond for a while, but when he did, it was just one sentence. No one's ever said that to me before, and I'll never forget that silence before the words, because I could feel it. The pause, the processing, the part of him that had just been met. That's what I mean by recognition, not flattery, not "you're amazing" or "you're so hot," but specific truth, told gently. It's like handing someone a mirror that shows the parts of them they thought no one could see. And when you do that, you create a moment they can't forget. Because here's what most people don't realize. Compliments fade when they're generic, but when they're rooted in observation, they anchor. Try this sometime. Instead of "you're smart," say, "I love the way your brain connects things that seem unrelated." It's like watching someone make music out of logic. Instead of "you're funny," try "your humor sneaks up on me." 1 minute we're serious, and the next I'm laughing so hard I forget what I was sad about. See the difference? One tells someone what they already hear all the time. The other tells them something they never knew they needed to hear. And when that message comes from you, it rewires the way they feel when your name pops up on their phone. Because you're no longer part of the noise. You're someone who sees them, and that's unforgettable. People chase attention, but attention is cheap. Recognition, that's rare. That's soul deep. And here's the beautiful irony. When you give someone this kind of emotional gift, it doesn't make you smaller or needy or vulnerable in a weak way. It makes you magnetic because in a world where everyone's talking, you're the one who listens and then reflects something meaningful back. I've noticed the men I connected with most weren't the ones who were loud or impressive on paper. They were the ones who had a quiet power they didn't even recognize in themselves until someone helped them see it. That someone can be you. If you're wondering what to write in a message, start with this question. What does he do that makes you smile quietly to yourself? What's the moment he probably thinks no one notices? Oh, but you do. Name it gently, clearly. No big speech, just a simple mirror. And you'll be amazed at what happens, at how their energy shifts, at how they start to associate you with the part of them they feel most real, most seen, most safe in. That's emotional imprinting. That's depth. That's the kind of connection that doesn't dissolve in silence or fade with time. Because in the end, we don't remember the loudest voices. We remember the quiet ones who saw something in us and said, "I noticed, and it's beautiful." There's a moment, right before something beautiful happens, that feels almost more powerful than the thing itself. The waiting, the wondering, the building tension that wraps around your ribs and makes your breath catch, just a little. That's anticipation, and I've come to believe it's one of the most underrated forces in emotional connection, not just in romance, but in everything. In how we bond, how we crave, how we remember. Because what we imagine, we feel more deeply than what we're simply told. I didn't always understand this. I used to spill everything at once, say too much, too fast, give it all away, not because I didn't have boundaries, but because I was afraid of being misunderstood, afraid that if I didn't show all my cards now, I might never get the chance. But you know what that did? It collapsed the story. Jung once said that the strongest symbols in our psyche are the ones wrapped in mystery, the ones that leave something just out of reach. Because when we don't have all the answers, our minds cling to the question. We live in it, and that's exactly how emotional attraction works too. I remember sending a message like this once. "Good morning. I'm planning something you're going to love. Can't wait to see your face when you find out." I didn't say what, I didn't give clues, I just planted the seed. His reply, "Wait, what? What is it? Tell me now." I didn't, not right away. Instead, I said, "Not yet, you'll see." And for the rest of the day, I knew his mind kept returning to that line. What is it? What is she planning? Why does it make her so sure I'll love it? That's anticipation. It's not about tricking someone. It's about creating a space of emotional tension. The good kind. The kind that makes someone feel alive, curious, engaged, invested. And here's the secret. Anticipation makes anything feel more valuable. You could be preparing the simplest gesture, a playlist, a note, a song, a little memory you want to share. But if you wrap it in emotional context, it becomes charged. Not because of what it is, but because of how you lead into it. Think about it. The best books, the most unforgettable films, they all build slowly. They don't show the climax in the first 5 minutes. They pull you in, piece by piece, until your entire body is leaning forward, needing to know. You can do the same in your words. Try something like, "There's something I've wanted to tell you for days, but I'm not sure how." Or, "I saw something today that made me think of you in a way I didn't expect. I'll tell you soon." And then wait. Let the space breathe. Let it do the work for you. Because in that pause, he's not just waiting, he's feeling, wondering, wanting, and that wanting. That's where connection deepens, where imagination joins the conversation, where you begin to take up space in his inner world, even when you're silent. But here's the key. Don't fake it. Don't create empty intrigue just to stir the pot. Let your anticipation be rooted in truth. Let it come from something real, something you're genuinely excited to share or say or do. Because when the moment comes, and you do reveal what you've been holding, it lands, not as noise, but as meaning. And he remembers, because the space between the question and the answer, that quiet, buzzing, sacred space, is where feelings bloom. So now I don't rush anymore. I don't spill everything all at once. I let the story unfold, line by line, pause by pause, breath by breath. And in that unfolding, I become unforgettable.